has been going on between Mr. Zampetti and the police department, and there will be some legal action taken, just so the borough is aware of it.
Once again, Mr. Creange, in the interest of the community, which is my #1 sworn duty, is the FOP prepared to negotiate with me and whomever I choose, or some others amongst this council, in a good faith effort to resolve these issues?
We don't have
and
a
put
problem
them aside?
negotiating.
I just wanted to make sure that's on record.
Absolutely
Mayor
not.
My
Lonegan,
job.
in response to your question, the impetus to negotiation, which is not, William Brown once again, which is not the issue before us, I believe. The impetus to negotiation is and has been Nicholas Zampetti. Nicholas Zampetti has engaged in a pattern and practice of harassing behavior that started with 14 unfounded complaints, has culminated recently in his using his personal vehicle along with another council member to follow a patrolman or a number of patrolmen throughout their tour of duty. Now this conduct, when coupled with his conduct with respect to the captain of the volunteer ambulance corps and issuing summonses to a man who actually saved the life of a cardiac arrest victim, is simply bizarre conduct that shouldn't be countenanced by the governing body. If, in fact, this borough is interested in improving the morale of the police department and getting past this hurdle, whereby Mr. Zampetti, who's canceled 3 meetings regarding negotiations, then this council will act to censor the man and will act directly to stop him from interfering with the day-to-day operations of the department. But as far as anybody here can see, as long as Mr. Zampetti is given free rein to come and go and to set policy for the police department, there's going to be problem on problem on problem. And Mr. Feedy can either investigate 4814-118 and the borough ordinance, or we can all go down to Jonathan Harris and have him sort it out for us at great expense to both sides. But it seems that plain English in the statute ought to be followed, and where there's no language authorizing his behavior, somebody ought to say, you're out of line. Stop following the cops around, stop giving tickets to volunteer ambulance corps members, stop buying things without permission of the mayor and council, and stop filing complaints that are unfounded. When that happens, great things can happen for this borough, but there's a cancer festering in this community. And as long as he's there, it's going to grow and it's going to get costly.
Mr. Brennan, one of the complaints that I filed, that gentleman, the mayor, was in fact a witness to, okay? And one of your officers denied the truth of being up in St. Joe's parking lot, door to door, for over an hour. All right?
Yeah.
Because the investigation was dropped on the basis of the officers saying, well, maybe we were there a half hour. I think that's essentially the nature of the report or the acknowledgement on the part of one of the officers.
Did you get a copy of my response?
If in fact you have a background in law enforcement and you know how to run a police department, please show us your credentials, because what you're doing is interfering with the administration.
This is not an open debate. I appreciate
Well,
it.
he's acting as if it is. I was addressing you, Mr.
I understand. Are there any other comments about anyone else? Comment?
I have.
Well, we're open to the public. Right? Is there any other public comments? If not, I'm going to close the public session. 2 more. Go ahead. Mr. Lynch.
You know what, I'll keep it short, Mr. Mayor. And again, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I just, you know what, this is going to continue, it's going to continue, it's going to end some way, but right now we can continue, we don't mind. I just hope that tonight, Mr. Mayor, you learn something. I hope that you learn something about the people on your council, okay? When Mr. Zampetti committed what we know was an impropriety, you stepped up quick and acted as a Nick Zampetti protectionist. For 3 council meetings in a row, I was here. When you committed tonight what he thought was an impropriety, he cut you quick. So I hope you learned something by that tonight. Because you protected him. You protected him, and tonight he got you. He cut you off real quick. So you need to keep that up here in the memory banks. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, yes. No.
Mr. Mayor, Tito Jackson.
No red light permit, Tito.
Okay. Well, I have 2 of them in my hand, and I'd like an answer to the question as to why the first aid squad is being denied red light permit when the fire department has been granted them. It's a life-saving tool. Every other town around us issues them for the captain and the first lieutenant. I want to know why we're being denied, and why being categorically denied, singled out as the ambulance corps. Because this mayor and council has a beef with me personally, that we're going to put people's lives on the line in this community. It's because This community needs to know that we cannot field an ambulance during the day. I have made this aware to the mayor and council. The mayor and council is very much aware of this. We had a 47-minute delay time in getting an ambulance to a patient just weeks ago. Anybody that lives in this town during the day and is around hears the whistles blow numerous times. So why would you deny a red light permit to the captain and first lieutenant? That's my question to you, sir.
The law is pretty clear on who gets a red light, who doesn't.
Yes, it does. And I
It's
have
also up to my judgment and discretion to determine when it's a responsible act, and I've opted not to do that in your case.
So it's a personal thing against me. It has nothing to do with the ambulance corps. Because under New Jersey Administrative Code 13-24, a vehicle owned and registered in the name of a captain or principal assistant of a volunteer first aid squad is eligible for the red light permit. And I'd like to know why it's been denied for 2 years now. The fire chief and the first assistant have a red light and sign permit for their personal vehicles. So I'd just like to know why. Can you give me an answer, or you can't?
No, I prefer not to engage.
Well, I think the people in this community need an answer for that.
I'd like one.
Because I think it's going to cost somebody their life. This is what we do, okay?
Okay.
And we need this to do our jobs.
Mhm.
And why would you hold something back that could cost a life in this community? I'm just curious about that.
Mr. Jackson, I made that clear in the past, so
Well, could you make it clear now?
I don't believe that the way you drive and handle the vehicle is safe. That's
Okay.
my opinion. I will continue to
That's
render
your
that.
opinion?
That's my opinion.
Okay.
Okay?
I'd
comments?
also like to bring up the condition of our ambulance corps building. Mr. Zampetti, who was on Buildings and Grounds, came in a year ago and had the room ripped apart. As it stands right now, the room is unusable. We had $8,000 worth of mannequins in that room. They were moved to the basement by a non-member of the ambulance corps, and the basement flooded Christmas night. Destroyed $8,000 worth of mannequins that have yet to be replaced. The room sits a year like that. I noticed the renovation downstairs is very nice, but nothing's been done to fix that building.
I can't address that issue, I'm sorry.
You can't address that issue?
No, it's in, I believe it's Councilman Zampetti's project.
Aren't they all?
So
Isn't
are we
council-
are they gonna finish it, or are they just gonna leave the room unkept? Because Mr. Martini said to wait he was at a rescue meeting just recently, he said to wait a month or two. We need storage space.
Mhm.
I have a tent sitting in the middle of the bay that the ambulance has to brush every time it goes out. So when is something gonna get done to fix this stuff? Or you just, because you have such a hatred, this council has such a hatred towards me, that the people that volunteer their time over there have to be subjected to this stuff.
Okay.
I am the chief operations officer of the ambulance corps and the
You
president
know,
of
you've
the
made
rescue
your
squad.
point, and I think
Okay.
you've gone beyond your point. If you'd like to talk to Councilman Zampetti about it.
Nothing's been done. Mr. Zampetti's been told about it numerous times. So I'm coming to you as we have a problem over there.
Mhm.
We have a membership problem. We have a morale problem. I mean, do you hate the public servants in this town that much?
It's an odd
You-
comment, so. All right,
I'm
you've
sorry.
made your point. Are there any other comments from the public? Parenti, yes.
Yes, Jeff Ferretti, Captain of Pagoda Auxiliary Police, Mayor, Council. I'd just like to know if everyone received that letter I had sent out about a week or so ago.
Yes, sir. I believe so. I just got it the other day. It was dated the 15th, and I think it showed up yesterday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to speak on, I'm a resident of Pagoda, I've been living here since '97.
We need your name and address.
I'm Cynthia Saunders, I live
Hello, Cynthia, how are you?
at 52 East Broad Street.
I didn't recognize you.
I'm doing okay. And I would like to know why certain residents are treated different than others.
You mean why some people are allowed to park on the street overnight?
Yes,
night after
they
night?
park on the street, they do what they want.
That's a darn good question.
That's
a very good question.
I was watching Officer Regina, I think it's around about February the 17th, and that was this particular car parked on the street. And what she did, she blowed, she even turned the siren on. She blowed for at least about 3 to 4 minutes. And the person that come out and move the car, she finally gave him a ticket. If I park on the street, you're not gonna blow, you're not gonna warn me to move my car, you're gonna give me a ticket. Same thing like we have sanitation people to remove the snow. We have certain neighbors that move the snow in front of my house and they get away with it. But I spoke to you and you had the snow removed, which was January 20th. They started again moving the snow back to my house and you said it was a violation. But they're still doing it. I have pictures to prove it. I have them on my camera. You're moving snow back and nothing is being done. I've been living this since '97. I'm a decent human being. I pay my taxes. I never gave you any problem. Why should I be treated different than any other person? What is the problem? I would like to know. What do I have to go through to get this solved? I want to live in peace. I have a 16-year-old daughter. We are living like hell because I have no one to protect me. If I go in the police department like I went in today, you looked at me like you hated me. If I would kill, they would kill. You didn't treat me with respect. You didn't treat me with courtesy. You had nothing to do with me. I needed some public information. That's what I needed. And
Cynthia,
nothing
I
happened.
know the issue, your neighborly issue.
I've
that
been
you're
going with
through.
this since my husband passed
Can
away.
may I?
Yes, sure.
You know I'm aware of the situation
Yes, I
you're
know.
going
I've
through,
spoken
and
to
I
you.
would hope that the police are fully active in
No.
supporting your rights.
No.
If not, I need to know that.
They're not.
Can I say something, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Very quick. Mrs. Saunders has dealt with me in the past, and
Yes, I
I think I've been nothing but respectful to her. And I think everyone in this room knows me as a pretty calm, and I try to be a decent person to everybody. I have nothing against this lady, whatever gave her the impression that I don't like her or that I looked at her the wrong way. That's simply not true. And I think everyone here that knows me knows that that's not the case.
All right, I think
Thank
Ms.
you.
Saunders' issue should be addressed to outside of open public. Mr. Sorges.
When a resident has a complaint, or just say with the police department or any of the other departments, who does he make that complaint to? Does he make it to you?
Can be to me, to Borough Hall, to the administrator, a
Well,
council.
most of the time, he makes it to the one who's in charge, like Nick is in charge of the police department,
Yeah.
somebody's in charge of the parks department,
Right,
somebody
correct.
else is in charge of
Yeah,
the
it could
building.
happen that way too, yes, sir.
Well, if they make the complaint to that person, it's his duty then to bring that question up to the council, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, isn't this what happens to a lot of these things here, that people get so mad about, that they blame this person or that person? When a citizen makes it to you, and then you bring it to the council, the citizen, most of the time, don't want to be, identified. So he brings it to you to see what you people can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So a lot of this here, thinking of people arguing that you make decisions on your own and all that, it's crazy to me.
Okay.
Because that's what I got to say, that's all.
Thanks, George.
Mayor Lonegan.
Yes, sir.
Is that-
Yes, I'm sorry, wait a moment.
David May has been
Wait,
recognized.
there's people here, Mr. May, Patrolman May? Sergeant May, I'm sorry, I'm moving you up. You'll be lieutenant by the end of the night.
Dan May, 464 Liberty Street, Littlebury. I have one simple question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
A requisition was handed in for $2,450 when the price was known to be over $2,900.
Yes.
Could you explain to me why that happened?
When
I'm asking why it was...
I can tell you about the requisition, and when I was made aware of the device, I asked Mr. Zampetti to requisition the funds properly so they would be encumbered. It was after the fact, and I authorized requisitions, and to the best of my knowledge, that was the amount of the purchase.
Mr. Mayor, isn't it true that Mr. Zampetti had, not only did he have an invoice from the vendor, but he had a quote from the vendor?
I can't comment on that, sir. I don't know that.
Did you make any inquiry as to whether or not that was the case?
That he had, I made an inquiry on Friday after that meeting as to the price of the product, and that's when I was told it was over $2,900, and I ordered it removed from the car. I am not aware of Mr. Zampetti having the actual invoice. I can't say that now.
I
Yes,
have, my comment is regarding the last gentleman who spoke. You know, in any proceeding, first of all, he premised his question to you on the basis that Mr. Zampetti was in charge of the police department. And that gets to the core of this dispute here, because Mr. Zampetti is not in charge of the police department. The chief of the police department is who is in charge of the police department. Nonetheless, any person who wants to make an accusation against any other person has to be able to do that face to face. Now, the members of the police department are entitled to due process just like any citizen that they charge. Nobody can say, I want to anonymously complain about somebody and force discipline upon them and never show my face. It's a fundamental principle guaranteed to every citizen under the Constitution of the United States. You have the right to face your accuser.
Excuse me,
So,
Mr. Brennan.
no, I don't. I don't excuse you. There is no excuse for what you've been doing.
Read the manual.
Don't interrupt.
I've read your ordinance,
All right.
I've read the statute, and it's
So,
very
Mr.
clear.
Brennan, you're right. There's a couple other comments that haven't been heard. Discussion, yes, sir.
Robert Bartels, 33 West Wortley Road. Mrs. Zampetti, we've had problems in the past, but we worked the problems out. Why can't Mr. Zampetti step down as police commissioner and go forward what's going on here? It seems every time we keep beating a dead horse. It's the same repetition, and it's not getting anywhere. Can he be switched to another committee for the meantime, for the good of the town, the good of the police department? No offense for doing it. Really, this is like the same crap all the time. You know, it's just an observation.
Very eloquent comment there.
It's
Is
not-
any other comments, Mr. Bart, anyone else comment? If not, we'll
Just
close
Dan
it.
Green's, two
Mr.
more quick comments. One regarding Tito Jackson. I'd like the council to sit down and look at that over again, because if you allow a man to drive an ambulance, he can't be driving all that recklessly and carelessly. So, as we're asking Mr. Zampetti to do, I'm asking you to do, to just clear your head, take another look at it, and maybe you guys could come to some kind of understanding. Second question I had was, it's come to my attention that Mr. Corrigan was retained by the borough to investigate or try to get an order to have Officer Lynch's cell phones revealed, a search warrant per se on his cell phone.
What?
Yes, that has come to my attention. Has that been brought to the council's attention? Have you discussed this?
Of course not.
What?
Can you fill me in on that, Mr. Zampetti?
Since it's an absolute, unquestionable, bold-faced lie, no, I can't.
It's a question, it's not a lie, it's a question. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
You're saying that this has
It's
no
factually
merit?
incorrect, Dan.
Okay.
Never happened.
Okay.
All right? Motion to...
Well,
I
well,
can still make a comment if I can when it's called to the public.
Well, if you second it, then we'll be close to the
Oh,
public.
wait a minute, you can't make a, what? What do you want to
I
do?
want to make a comment. And when it goes down to the public, maybe I can say.
Oh, okay, I will close the public session.
hold on, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, one more, last
The
comment.
last comment is quite simple. If you didn't see the invoice or the price quote, and Mr. Zampetti did. Now, the price quote was issued in the end of December, and I've seen it, and I don't run this town, and I've seen the invoice, and I don't run this town. How is it that the man who signed a requisition, and in his handwriting wrote $2,650, $2,450, how is it that I've seen the quote, I've seen the invoice, and I didn't fill out the requisition, yet Mr. Zampetti somehow made an error that brought his requisition in below the public contracting threshold for multiple bids or multiple quotes. Now, it's not a term of art here. The difference between $2,570 and $2,900 is a public contracting law, and the public contracting laws were established so that things like this don't happen. Now,
Mr. Brennan, I appreciate everything, but you know what? I told you earlier, I think this Borough Council better deal with that issue.
But Mr. Zampetti is the person who has the information. Nobody on this council is demanding that he step forward and say, either I made a mistake, or I did it intentionally and I was going to pay out of my own pocket, or I just figured I'd get away with it and pay it later. What is the explanation? Because I can't find a reasonable explanation looking at the facts, and I'm sitting here in a vacuum. I bring the same facts to Mr. Zampetti for three weeks in a row. Mr. Zampetti refuses to acknowledge that what he wrote cannot be reconciled with the information he was given. Now, that's a problem, and everybody here that's elected has a duty, has an obligation to the residents of this borough to find out from Nick Zampetti what was going through his mind when he signed a piece of paper for an amount that he knew was lower than was required to fulfill the obligation, and that he knew was lower than that required for multiple quotes. What was he thinking? I don't think it's an unreasonable question to ask. And you know something? The question is going to continue to be asked, so he might as well answer it. Mr. Zampetti, you've interrupted me a number of times. Please interrupt me and tell me, what was going through your mind when you wrote something that you knew to be false?
I interrupt you when you say falsehoods.
Okay, so you're saying that I'm right, that you knew it was false,
No.
and you wrote it anyway and signed your name.
No.
How did you make the mistake? Please, if it's a misunderstanding, tell me. How did the mistake happen?
Misunderstanding.
How? What did you misunderstand about $2,900? How is that hard to figure out? $2,900. It looked like $2,570 to you? $2,450? I don't get it.
This isn't an interrogation. I appreciate the
It's
question.
not anything really. It's a man sitting here, interrupting people at will, refusing to answer questions, and making allegations.
We're gonna close the public session. You have the right to ask your questions
And not have them answered.
follow through on it clearly. So, but I'm gonna close the public session because Councilwoman Scalzo wants to make a comment.
Move to go into public session.
Closed session for what? Okay, we closed the public session.
When do we get answers to some of these questions?
There, okay, sorry.
Back for a second. Young lady right there, I'm afraid I don't know your name.
Melissa Nodine.
You made a comment that I'm personally offended.
I didn't mean you either. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's a few
I'm
people.
being told now by Tito that the council hates. I don't hate anybody, especially any of the volunteers. And I'm getting offended that I am being accused of comments and things that are being said, that because I'm sitting on this council, that I am being accused as being part of it.
Not that I'm anybody, but actually I have a lot of respect for you, Ms.
I
Scalzo.
vote the way I feel, and that's, all I can say is, I don't want to be counted as just following a group of people that I don't always agree with.
And you show that. And you show that, and I appreciate that.
Motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Mr. Zampetti.
Yeah, I think we have to just